know I get hate mail all the time from people who don't like that I will criticize the President of the United States. I tell you exactly what I think. And this one is wild to me to see the American Press Corps using leaks probably from congressional Democrats to discredit the United States military as a way of getting Donald Trump. Why? Because what he did in Iran is extremely popular with the public. He was on the right side. They were on the wrong side. And now it's very, very wild to see this setup where the people who didn't want him to bomb Iran now argue, well, he didn't bomb them enough. I mean, just think about that. Just think about that. The people who told you we should not do anything in Iran are now telling you we didn't do enough in Iran. Do they want us to go back and do some more? I'm pretty sure he'd be fine with that. Natasha Bertrand is the CNN reporter who broke the story. It's an exclusive at CNN. Now, if that name sounds familiar, it's because she's also the reporter when she was at Politico who broke the story that the Hunter Biden laptop was not real, but was Russian disinformation. The sources said, and the experts say, and the national security community told her that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation. It wasn't real. And she ran that story as a way to discredit the New York Post and to protect Joe Biden. Natasha Bertrand was then hired by CNN. They have elevated her position at CNN, and the same reporter who tried to discredit the Hunter Biden laptop is now trying to discredit the attack on Iran. Can you really believe, with her sources that told her the Hunter Biden laptop was fake, can you really believe her sources that the attack on Iran was fake, was not real, it did nothing, was for show? Can you really believe it? The New York Times has a similar story, but it's also the New York Times. Now, I will say, there is a lot of credible evidence Iran did pull a lot of uranium out of Fordo before it was bombed. We assume the Israelis know where the uranium went. It's true. But you can't refine it without the centrifuges that were not pulled out from under the mountain, that we know historically if they stop abruptly, blow up because they spin so fast. The Israeli Atomic Energy Commission believes that they were set back years. The Israeli assessment is actually that they were set back. And it's not just Israel, it's also people, the IAEA from the United Nations. So, CNN is having on the reporters with the deep state sources. By the way, side note, tangent here. I actually think it's Democrats in Congress. Democrats on the Intelligence Committee were given the superficial briefing of what the initial findings were. And it did not, the leaking of the report came after the Democrats in Congress on the Intelligence Committee. It was not just the Democrats, it was Republicans and Democrats alike on the Intelligence Committees for the House and the Senate. They were given briefings, and the leaking came after the House and Senate Intelligence Committees were given briefings on the initial intelligence assessment. And by the way, as Pete Hegseth and others have made clear, it was the weight given to the intelligence was low. It was an initial report. It was not eyewitness. It was from satellite observation for something that was buried 300 feet underground. So the assessment of the intelligence was actually low confidence. When the news reporters ran it, they left out that it was considered a low confidence report, but that was the initial assessment pending direct observation. The House and Senate Intelligence Committees received the briefings, and the report came out after the Intelligence Committees. My guess is it was Democrats in the House and Senate, some of whom have now acknowledged that they got the initial intelligence report. My guess is they leaked it. Because what Donald Trump did was popular, and they've got to undermine Donald Trump's popularity. And it's very easy for a Democrat to be able to question the competence of our military. They don't mind questioning the competence of our military in order to undermine Donald Trump. It's all political. So you go to the reporter who was willing to carry water for him on the Hunter Biden laptop, and you tell her that, this is they're saying in the intelligence reports that we didn't actually do anything. While CNN is having on the reporter with the Democrat leading sources, Fox News is having on the chief of the International Atomic Energy Agency of the United Nations to talk about the situation.
Well, I think the nuclear program, the Iranian nuclear program, has been set back significantly. When you say years, I don't know what is your the metric that you want to apply. Now, I don't know. We have to see what they want to do. Are they going to reconstruct what they had? And let's not forget, there are so many interactions here, Martha. If, for example, there is a resumption, as I hope personally, of the negotiation with Ambassador Witkoff, where there was an idea that Iran would not be enriching and would perhaps be part of an international consortium. I mean, there were very interesting ideas that were being floated. This is not my thing. This is for the negotiation that is going to take place, I hope, again, as it was, and we would only need to verify it. But it is clear that there is one Iran before June 13, nuclear Iran, and one now, and it's night and day.
It's night and day. That's the UN agency, not exactly pro-Trump there. Here's Donald Trump himself.
President Trump, along with other senior cabinet officials, slammed the intel leak at the NATO summit this morning.
You would think they'd want to say this was an unbelievable success. And the thing that hurts me is it's really demeaning to the pilots and the people that put that whole thing together, the generals. That was a perfect operation.
You can't even find where it used to be because the whole thing is just blackened out. It's right. Gone.
It's wiped out.
It's wiped out. Then we dropped 12 of the strongest bombs on the planet right down the hole in 2 places.
Yeah. But you know, so this is the one more, because this is Brett McGurk, who worked for Barack Obama. He was on with Anderson Cooper last night. Listen to this.
Multiple things can be right. First of all, the intelligence community is very careful with words. Obliterate is not a term of art that is used in the intelligence community. So you'll never see an IC report saying obliterate. I think the key question here is the Fordo facility accessible and can it be rendered usable again for the Iranian enrichment program? Are those centrifuges hundreds of feet underground still there and still usable? Or is Fordo, maybe the underground facility was not caved in, but it's basically entombed and it's going to be extremely difficult for the Iranians ever to access it again? I think we'll learn more here as the days and even weeks go by, but that's basically where we are. So this is one report. But as this goes on, you'll have a much more comprehensive assessment within the U.S. government and within the intelligence departments.
One of the most reasonable things said on CNN yesterday regarding this report is, as they're overhyping it to try to discredit and damage the president, to claim the military didn't do anything, is we actually have satellite imagery we haven't actually been on the ground to inspect. And this is the interesting one for me. So this is from The Atlantic on MSNBC. Talking about the report, trying to discredit the president. Listen to where they go.
Ashley, you and I have written a couple pieces together in recent days for The Atlantic about this situation in Iran and the president's approach to it. You certainly, this was meant to be a limited strike. That was the idea. He has signaled that he doesn't want to send ground troops, that he was comfortable with the bombing on Saturday night. And now we're at this moment where he is really defending it as a pure and simple success, as we've been very clear. It's just too early to know that right now. What's your latest you've been reporting on in terms of his mindset, and what could be next for him there in this situation?
Well, first of all, this is very in line with Donald Trump's belief that he can bend reality to his will, that if he says something enough, just like with the 2020 election, his false claim that it was stolen, it can become true. So that's why we are seeing it is too early to know. The truth is we don't actually know if it was totally obliterated, if it was set back by a few months. But his belief is that if he just repeats that this mission was a perfect success, that it was totally obliterated, it will make it true.
You got that? He lied about the election. You can't believe him about this. You should believe us, the members of the media who lied about COVID instead. That's their spin. Absolutely right that we don't know yet whether it's true or not. We don't know actually the assessment, but it was kind of wild for the New York Times and CNN to rush out with the intelligence community says it wasn't destroyed. The intelligence community says they're only set back by a couple months. The Israelis, who have a vested existential interest, say they were set back by years. By the way, they've assassinated another 30 or 40 atomic scientists in Iran, despite the ceasefire. I think what's happening here is an American media so in bed with the Democratic Party, they're willing to discredit and insult the work of the American military because they can't afford for Donald Trump to see a polling rebound. They can't afford for him to go up in the polling. We got midterms coming in just over a year. That they can't afford for Donald Trump to be popular. So they will discredit the American military to discredit Donald Trump. What is the most interesting and fascinating point for me, though, is that the people who were upset that Donald Trump bombed Iran are now like, well, he didn't do a good enough job. I guess this is their invitation for him to go back and do more. That's how I read this, is if you think it wasn't a good enough job, I guess we need to go spend a little more time in Iran, don't we? To make sure, because we've just now stirred up a hornet's nest, and if they're 2 or 3 months from getting a nuke, we better go obliterate it. Isn't that it? Is this the media wanting regime change in Iran? Is this what they're doing? It is not a coincidence, and you need to understand this. It is not a coincidence that the reporter who pushed the lies about Hunter Biden's laptop for the left pushes a report undermining the military's claims on Iran shortly after Democrats on the Intelligence Committee in the House and the Senate are briefed on what happened. We don't need to conjure deep state agents within the Department of Defense and Intelligence community to find the leaker here. It's obviously Democrats and members of Congress, given the timing of the report. Democrats in Congress are playing politics with our national security now. Things they've accused Republicans of in the past, they are blatantly doing now. The initial intelligence report was rated low confidence by the military because, again, we don't have eyes on the ground. No one has been there to look. It was based on satellite pictures. They aren't sure. They were expecting more of a collapse of the mountainside and surroundings than there were. They have seen the Iranians trying to go in to assess stuff, and by seeing the Iranians attempting to access the sites, they presumed the sites were accessible. That's the substance of the report. They're making presumptions. So the same American intelligence community reports that said Iran was not anywhere near getting a bomb are now saying they're a couple of months from being able to get a bomb, but just last week told us that they were not even sure they were building a bomb. None of this makes sense unless you understand this is about discrediting Donald Trump, not about telling you what actually happened.